Since starting my YouTube channel, I've uploaded several woodland photography videos, and every time I do upload one, I get a load of comments from you guys basically confirming how challenging woodland photography is. And I find it very challenging too, and I have the exact same frustrations as you guys. I have come to the woods again today and looked for a few compositions, but I've not really been able to find anything at all. So I've come back to have a little bit of lunch and a cup of tea, and after that I'm going to go back into the woods and try a technique and a little bit of a project that's slightly different to the norm, just to give me something that I can photograph today. And maybe it's something that you can try too, that if you do want to go and visit the woods and enjoy them but you're not sure what to photograph, then having a project or something to focus on might be helpful and give you that reason to go out. But it is grey today and cold, so I want to have this cup of tea first. You quite often see woodland shots of the technique that I'm going to use today, and you might have already guessed what it is. It's a bit of an abstract technique that I've tried a few times and always had good fun doing it, which is intentional camera movement, or ICM. So I'm going to have a walk down into the woods now, see what I can spot and see what I come away with. If you recognise these trees, I did actually come here in my last video where I was planning my shoot for bluebells in the spring, but I figured that these tall beech trees are the perfect subject for this kind of thing because it gives me lots of straight lines that I can use to enhance with a bit of ICM. And I put my long lens on to compress the trees in front of me, and I'm hoping that that's going to work, but I actually don't know what the result's going to be, so I'm going to first try a bit of tilting up and tilting down and see what comes out of it. I am set at about half a second, a bit less than, and I'll see if I'll adjust it and see what I get. But I think I'm going to start at the top and then start moving and then release the shutter. No, that's rubbish. Maybe I'll reduce the shutter speed a little bit. With regard to aperture, I don't really think it matters because nothing's really going to be sharp, and the depth of field is kind of irrelevant in a sense, but we'll see. I'll balance out the shutter speed with that, and yeah, no. I think it's just a matter of trial and error with this, to be honest. I'll keep giving it a few goes and come back to you when I've got something. I'm starting to get somewhere a bit with this now. I think that what I've learned a little bit from this now is that it's not really about moving quickly, because then you lose all sorts of detail and it just becomes a bit of a sort of blurry mess. But if you do a slow and very purposeful movement, and with what I'm doing here with these straight trees, if I move it slowly and make sure that I keep the camera as straight as possible, then it actually does capture the shape of the trees still. And because of this environment with the orange or bright copper leaves on the ground here, they do start to show up and it starts to become slightly recognisable. And I think that's partly what ICM is about, so that it is recognisable but in an abstract way. The other thing is that I've started moving the camera before I release the shutter, and I don't stop moving it until the exposure's finished, and that's starting to give me better results. I haven't really given too much thought about the composition here. It's more of an experiment, but I think if I was to spend a bit more time doing this, then I might start to look for a bit more of an engaging group of trees that will still come through in that wobbly, blurry mess. Some of the other things I've tried have come out quite interesting, but they really are just abstract. You can't really tell that they're trees or woodland at all. But I'll put them up and let me know what you think. So I'm in the exact same spot, but I've just pointed my camera upwards because there's some nice silhouetted branches up against the sky here. And I've been releasing the shutter and rotating the camera as it goes, and it's creating some quite nice effects. You can still see that there's branches, and then there's a lot of rotation or circular motion around, which kind of highlights some of them. But it is a bit of trial and error, and I don't think that I can actually capture an image on purpose, if that makes sense. Maybe with a bit more experience and skill with ICM, then you can get exactly what you're after. It might just be trial and error for everyone. Have you tried it? Let me know in the comments and tell me whether you got a result that you expected or whether it was just completely random. I don't know if there's any really hard and fast rules for ICM and whether there's any specific movements that you should be making, but I'm just walking around and trying all sorts of different things. I don't half look a bit of a wally there, and I hope that nobody's watching me because some of these movements I'm doing are pretty bizarre. What I have found though, the results tend to look a bit better if I'm just moving on one axis or just a couple. So if I'm rotating it around a certain point or moving it up and down or left and right, any sort of jittering about like this tends to make it just look a bit like camera shake, unless I suppose if I've really slowed the shutter speed down a lot more, but then I'm going to lose any detail of things that I might want to remain in the shot. But I'll keep exploring and trying new things. I really don't think that ICM is actually my cup of tea. I think I would find it difficult to include in my normal workflow without having a special project like this. But it is something that I'll probably try again in the future. And maybe you've done intentional camera movement photography way more than I have, and if you've got any tips or advice, then feel free to leave them in the comments below so that others can learn from you. All that's left for me to say is that I hope that this has given you some ideas, or at least gives you the motivation to get out into the woods when you might normally have just gone home too. But thank you for watching, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you in the next video.